Hi there. So I just finished recording a very interesting podcast with somebody I hugely respect. There are very few nutritionists in the country who also have a proper medical degree. She's one of them. And we've spoken about everything from things that you need in your pantry, what you should do about cooking utensils, cooking oils, about salts, about sugars, so, how to prioritize things in your life and especially in your kitchen? Meaning, what are the macro things, what are the micro things, and often do we confuse one from the other? So, this episode gave me a lot of clarity on how to think about cooking, especially people like us who don't have time and who always outsource it to our didis. So, what instructions should you be giving your didis? We've spoken about all of that in this podcast. Check it out. इंटरनेट की नहीं, डॉक्टर वेरीफाइड न्यूज़ ही देखिए. When it comes to food, I have so many questions. चिया सीड खाना है कि नहीं खाना है, इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग करना है कि नहीं करना है, आपको कार्ब्स खाने हैं कि नहीं खाने हैं, कोकोनट वाटर पीना है कि नहीं पीना है, हर रोज सेम खाना खाना है कि नया नया वैरायटी का खाना खाना है, प्रोटीन पाउडर पीना है कि नहीं पीना है. इतने सवाल हैं जिनका मैं आपसे आज जवाब चाहती हूँ. ये लिस्ट और लंबी है. कौन सी यूटेंसिल में खाना खाना है, कौन से तेल में खाना खाना है, ये सारी चीजों का आज हम एक ही पॉडकास्ट में सारा जवाब देने वाले हैं. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग हियर.
Thank you for having me.
आर यू रेडी?
Let's go.
Can we start with basics? Look at your kitchen today or your pantry today and tell me, what is it that most Indians get wrong?
See, I think the most important thing I would say is that either you make one food the villain or making one food the superfood. That is totally wrong because your pantry, the entire combination of your pantry, entire diet of your diet over not just a meal, not just a day, but over months. Ultimately, our body calculates things over a long term. So it's like during COVID, everybody was saying कि ये पी लो immunity बढ़ जाएगा. तो कोई एक चीज से तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है और एक दिन से कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला है. तो it's how you've treated your body over months is how your body is going to treat you back. Your body is not such a hard taskmaster ki you ate out once, so now I'm going to shut down. It's not like an avocado, which gives you such a tiny window of eating it, right? Like there's that funny meme where an avocado says, you took a shower, now I'm overripe, you can't eat me. You left me alone for like
now
10
I'm
minutes.
oxidized.
Now I've become totally inedible. So our body gives us a long rope to, recover. If you made one food mistake, you come back the next day and you come back on track. So I think not looking at any one thing and not like eliminating food groups. So I would say, again, you ask me what in your pantry, there's no one thing. It is the entirety of your pantry, the entirety of your diet, and over a long period of time is what ultimately has. And if someone has been abusing their body for a long period of time, it will again take that much time to come back. So people have eaten badly, never had an exercise session in 5 years, and they feel like in 5 weeks they should lose the 20 kgs and become super fit and start doing push-ups. It's not going to happen. So you have to give your body that much time to recover.
Yeah.
So coming back to the pantry, it's about everything, how you're cooking, most importantly, diversity. Are you eating a variety of foods?
Okay, that's number one, diversity.
Diversity. See, also in Indian food, we have that already inbuilt, but we are also becoming slightly more disconnected with our culture. To add to that, there is this nutritional confusion कि रोज मैं ये मेन्यू में डाल दिया आज तो किसी ने रील डाल दिया कि ये डेंजर है धनिया अभी क्या बनाऊं. So you're constantly confused about what to cook, what to feed your family, and more so if you have kids, like what is the good thing to give them.
Yeah.
Because how much ever we are reckless about our own health, when we have kids we become so much more
that is
concerned.
so true. I think my entire perspective on food changed the minute I had a kid, because I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, what am I putting in this little tiny body, right?
Yeah.
And that changed. So, but I want to go back to, you said a basic. So I'm trying to understand from you, call it the basic mantra of running a good nutritious kitchen. You're saying number one is diversity. Does
Yeah.
that mean different kinds of pulses?
Yes. So
Different kinds of vegetables and
yeah,
fruits?
we'll come to that. So, you know, see now this whole millet thing is big, right? So, but if you've been eating rice, don't overnight say, I'm going to start eating millets every day. That's not diversity. So, you can have rice one day, you can have quinoa one day, you can have one kind of millet one day, and one day you can have rotis or wheat. So, keep a variety because, see, every pulse and every cereal has a different set of micronutrients. So, this way, you are ensuring that you're covering a wide range of things and not just the same thing every day. Diversity also comes from the local and seasonal fruits and vegetables, which again, someone may ask, I don't even know what is local and seasonal
Yeah.
anymore because everything
Everything is
around the
available.
world
Yeah.
is available at the tap of your phone app.
Yeah.
And it's also available around the year. So, how do you know what is seasonal, right? So, again, what is seasonal will always be less expensive compared to the other things. Like, say, if I try buying broccoli in Bangalore in summer, it is available, but it will be some 300, 400 a kilo. But if I buy the same thing in winter, it will be maybe 70 a kilo. So that is a huge, because in the season is when there is a huge surplus of stuff and the cost comes down big time. And also the other important thing that I also recently learned, how do you know what is in season? Because that was tied to our festivals. So when say January, Sankranti, a lot of communities in India, they make things with til, sesame seeds. So तभी हाँ गजक होता है हमारे इसमें with sesame they make like chikki type laddus and all that in south, all that. So sesame is harvested in in Jan. Sugar cane again harvested in Jan. Now April, a lot of us like South India and all, we have our New Year in April. So that time we have a certain menu. So what is in season at that time? So these things are like what, because in early years there was no around the year storage, there was no importing of foods from outside the country. So whatever was harvested, that was made as the prasad or the thing. So that's a good lens. So you can talk, even though we may not be doing that prasad system now, or we have become disconnected, we can ask our parents and grandparents that what was available at this time of the year. So you know that is in season. So that's coming back to fruits and vegetables. And even we know that summer, mango is a summer fruit. So if it's available at some ridiculous price in January, you don't want to be buying that because you know it has come from somewhere, it's sat in some cold storage for months, and now it's coming to you.
So basically, my mantra then to understand seasonal food is that buy the cheapest product, not the most expensive one.
Yes.
That for sure will ensure that you're eating whatever is in season.
Absolutely.
Instead of going and buying the most expensive fruit and vegetable out there. I think that's a good one. But when you say diversity, it's difficult for modern day Indians to follow that. For example, somebody who's trying to lose weight or has gone off carbs, is on a gut detox, as is very famous these days, or on a liver detox that they're on, perhaps doesn't eat carbs at all, right? So for a person like that, how do you include still all nutrients? Or say a person like Virat Kohli who says that, listen, I'm going to have chicken broth 365 a day and I don't care.
Yeah. So, couple of things there. I personally don't believe in eliminating food groups. So, eliminating all carbs or eliminating all fats, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. That not only reduces diversity, it also, even your grains and stuff, they give you that bulk, they give you the fiber, they give you satiety. They may also make you feel good about a certain food. Like you eliminate carbs, someone can feel like it can make them feel really sad that what's the point in living like that. So I would say that eliminating food groups is not something I recommend. At the same time, people who follow like a mono diet, eating the same thing every single day, I don't know if they are taking some other supplements for their gut or something. Again, we have all the reason to be a bit suspicious about gut supplements because everybody's gut microbiome is like their fingerprint. And so, what supplement are you going to give one person? Because it's not that you're not just providing like a vitamin D ki iska level बढ़ गया. So gut supplements for this very same reason don't work, that everybody's gut is so unique that it's impossible that one particular strain of 2-3 types of bacteria is going to help this person.
Yeah.
So I don't know how those supplements work.
But is it true that gut biome is also constantly changing?
Absolutely. So it's not just influenced by the food you eat, it's influenced by your sleep, your stress levels, whether you exercise or not, whether you have a pet at home, whether you work in the garden, because everything. So that's why it's shown that kids who grow up with pets have lesser allergies and stuff also, because somewhere it's impacting their immunity, exposure to pets. Because when their skin has a lot of their hair has a lot of other bacteria, so those bacteria intermingling with yours, you are inhaling some, or sometimes when they are playing with you, they're licking your face and it's affecting your thing, right? So lot of things, whether you use hand sanitizer a lot, whether you're regularly taking Dolo and paracetamol, that affects your gut bacteria. So I think a good way to think about is what we eat. We are just enjoying that few seconds of pleasure of the food, but ultimately that food is going for your gut bacteria. So it's worthwhile giving it a thought, that is it going to be good for them? Because when we early food bloggers were used to be on Instagram, when it was just a photo only site, we would be posting our daily meals and people giving us likes and we would feel very happy. So it's literally like the food that goes in the gut bacteria are actually giving you likes and no, I don't like this. So they're literally rating your food when it goes inside.
Okay.
Just to tell you that is it going to help you or not.
Yeah.
So so that's why I think diversity is so important. In UK recently they said at least 30 different plant-based foods a week, which is actually very less. In India, even say our turmeric, our dhania powder, jeera powder, everything is a plant-based food ultimately. Even the dhania that you use to garnish, that is counted as one. So everything, if you say, even in sometimes in 2-3 dishes, we are already using 30 ingredients from plants. See, sesame seed, plant-based ingredient. एक ग्रेवी बनाने में ही कभी कभी 10 इंग्रेडिएंट लग जाते हैं. तो I feel like there's some cashew, there's onion, ginger, garlic, tomato.
But it's got to do with the way of cooking, right? Which brings me to the other essential in your kitchen and your pantry. We talked about introducing diversity. Way of cooking is perhaps the second most important key pillar to nutrition, right?
I agree.
I know this from personal experience because a family member got cancer, and I remember they moved completely to this slow cooking method. They said, I now cook my meal. 8 o'clock in the morning, I put it in. And by the time there is lunch time, it's actually cooked. It's cooked slowly. The nutrients are absorbed better. All of those things, right? So is that, how do you impact way of cooking?
So I'm not too sure about the slow cooking thing. But yeah, definitely cooking things on very high flame with a lot of oil is the worst way to cook. Because a lot of nutrients are heat labile, as in they die or the quantity reduces or they get deactivated in very high heat. And using too much oil, of course, you're needlessly adding calories to your diet, and it's not of any use to cook with that much oil. And that's how, if you either have a cook at home or you are ordering in food, this is how it's getting made. So that's the main two rules are disregarded, because when you're cooking for somebody else, you want to get it done with fast. You have 1 hour to cook like 4 dishes. They are going to cook like this. You think they're going to stand on a thing and slowly, saute it or let it steam cook? That's not happening, right? So two main rules on I would say is that use minimum. See, again, this whole which oil to use, is this cold press, that is seed oil, that's refined oil, this is A2 ghee, this is that. Nothing matters.
Really?
Because ultimately, if the quantity is more, it is going to adversely affect you. And it is the quantity that matters much, much more than the. I'm not saying that use any kind of oil, but if even if you're using the best oil and you're using too much of it, it's
I'll
ultimately
come to
bad.
oils in a bit, but in terms of way of cooking, most of North Indian sabzis, and I can tell you about even stuff that I grew up on, which my dadis and nanis have cooked, everything is, it becomes a bharta at the end of the day. Whether it's your bhindis or it's your green sabzi, it could be beans, it could be capsicum. it could be anything. Everything is cooked for several hours. And now very fancily we walk up to our parents to say इसमें तो कुछ nutrient बचा ही नहीं है. क्या ये
Yeah.
सही है? Is this true?
Yeah, that's true. And that's my point about not everything our ancestors were doing was doing the right way, right? They were not doing everything right. And maybe it worked for them, but it's definitely not working for us. And cooking vegetables, especially like this, I think like a light steaming or microwaving them and just until they are slightly tender and just adding little bit of tadka or sauteing or adding some spices and then just sauteing it very lightly for a few seconds because it's already cooked now. You don't have to further do that until it retains its color, its flavor, its original flavor. That's the best way to cook vegetables. And I see that the Tamil style of making these poriyals, where we literally pressure cook things for like one whistle, even if it's beans, and then we turn it off, and then it's open the cooker, so it's bright green and it's just cooked, and then we just add like 1 spoon or 2 spoons of teaspoons of oil, and rai, urad dal, and some dried red chili. Add this, saute over. It's literally like if the beans is cut, it takes me 5 minutes to prepare this dish. Because that cooker whistle comes in like 2 minutes because it's a small thing and you've kept it directly. So I would say that this is literally like a in between a salad and a sabzi. So I'm saying it's like a cooked salad, you can say. It's not because you're not eating beans raw. So this is a good way to cook. And it's a good thing to learn and incorporate these things from other cultures who have got it right.
Yeah.
And again, certain other, we may be doing some other things wrong. So take it from other cultures. So I think we have the wealth of knowledge of so many different cooking techniques in India. Like from what I hear in the Northeast, almost everything is just steamed. Nothing is sauteed and fried. Even all their greens, like
I remember my mother standing in front of a kadhai for hours and hours and just going on it. वो कुछ पिसरा होता था या फिर
Bhuno
something-
technique,
Bhuno
which takes a
technique,
long
yeah.
time. So places like Sikkim, they eat so many greens and everything is just steamed and had with rice. So it's also a mindset, right? Like you give this to a Punjabi, they'll say like, what is this? Why am I supposed to eat the rice with these steamed greens?
Yeah.
But that is a part of a culture in some other community. So I think we should pick out the best techniques and learn from them and incorporate them and try to accept them slowly, because don't be of that rigid mindset that this sabzi has to be made like this only.
Yeah. Which brings me to the other big pillar in the pantry, which is not just what all you cook, not just how you cook, but what do you cook in. Utensils are much of talk of the town. Every year I see a new form come into the market saying, now this is the best. It used to be back in the day, it used to be Teflon coatings and non-stick pans. Now there is stone finish. And then somebody saying, leave all of this, go back to the good old cast iron. But cast irons are so difficult to maintain. So what do you do? Where do you cook?
Again, at the risk of getting cancelled, non-stick is not poisonous or dangerous. Teflon by itself is like an inert thing. It's not getting absorbed in your body or interacting with your gut or any such thing. So, the few rules for non-stick is that buy a good quality brand, not the ones you get for 200, 250 rupees, because so that you know that the material is a good standard material. And don't heat it on a high flame without any food in it. And definitely don't use metal spoons. I know it's like the obvious thing, but some people out of laziness, they just do that. And if you see any visible damage, discard the pan. So if you already have non-stick cookware in your house, just ditching everything you have and buying everything new is not possible for people. You're just adding to the general waste generated in the world also. They're not helping the planet by just
hold
changing.
on, you're saying non-sticks are not carcinogenic?
Yeah, they are fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so see, I think it's also the whole thing. This whole wave started a few years ago, where saying that X is carcinogenic is the most viral video format. You can be guaranteed that you will go viral. So put anything in the place of X. You can say non-stick, you can say aluminum, you can say rice, you can say wheat. You can literally put anything there and say that's
This
a
is
video.
carcinogenic.
X is carcinogenic. That's a video format and guaranteed viral. So I think just not go with every single such fear-mongering thing. And that way you'll be changing your kitchen and your pantry and your cooking every single day. Someone is going to tell you this is not right.
No, but if your non-stick is scratched, isn't it getting like
dissolved in your food? Isn't it mixing it up? Isn't it passing it on in your
So that's
food?
what I said. Teflon is an inert substance. So it's not going to get mixed in your food or any such thing. So that's the logic behind it. That said, don't use things which are peeling off and all that, because ultimately, whether it's going to get absorbed in your body or not, you don't want to be ingesting some foreign substances like that. So yes, cast iron, the kadais and all which our grandmothers were using, that's perfectly good. See, only thing about two things about cast iron: one, they are extremely heavy. I'm not talking about the regular iron kadai, but the ones which you get in US and all.
Yeah.
Those are very heavy. So older people, for them to lift that with the food, and that presents its own danger that they should not drop it down. And secondly, of course, you have to maintain it a little bit by keeping it dry and oiled, without which it will start rusting. And again, it's a difficult
Oh,
process
so you
to
can't
maintain.
cook tomatoes and stuff like
That
that in
also,
it. Huh?
again, nothing wrong. It'll just turn a bit black in color, like darker in color. Taste wise or nutrition wise, there's
So
no
what do you
problem
have
there.
in your kitchen? What do you cook
I have a
in?
mix of things.
Huh.
See, the number one gold standard is tri-ply stainless steel. Top, and it will last forever. You maintain it well, dishwasher safe, gets really clean. There's no issue. And again, buy the high quality one. This will last you a lifetime. So if the cheaper ones with a very thin bottom, everything is going to burn. You don't even have to try. It is going to go. It is going to burn. Now there are a lot of techniques. So I had kept a non-stick pan just for eggs. But now, after all that Instagram viral video where you really heat up your stainless steel pan, and when you sprinkle some water, it just
Becomes-
bubbles and dances around, you know that the pan is really hot. Then you add a little bit, you can brush or spray some oil, and then you literally put your egg on it and it can slide off. And yeah, I have tried it, it works. So now I know that it's working and I may end up using this. So, but otherwise, yes, go ahead, use non-stick for your omelets and all. This is like a time-consuming process. Again, you're putting more hurdles for a newbie cook. Saying एक ऑमलेट बनाने के लिए भी अभी इतना करना पड़ेगा, पैन नया ले लो and heat it and make sure it's become seasoned and this and that. So yeah, I use a lot of tri-ply stainless steel. And then for certain things, I have a certain pan for deep frying, not deep frying, to make ghee. I have one older pan, which I find it easy to pour. That's just practical things. But yeah, I have this, but I also use non-stick. I'm not saying no. So for certain quick omelets or something, or if I just want to make one dosa, so the cast iron dosa pan, first you have to heat it, then make one small dosa to make sure it's coming out proper, and then the second and the third one will come out right. So if I have to just make one, I'm not going to waste like 10 minutes to
Yeah.
prep everything and that. So I make in that. So it's about being practical. And again, coming back to the same point about, uh, you know, picking out which brand of ingredient, which brand of pan, all this matters way less on the hierarchy of how is your overall diet. Are you eating the right foods? Are you eating a diverse variety of fruits and vegetables and everything? All this, these are the more important points. Like, what pan am I cooking in is way below the thing. What is being cooked in that pan? I want to know that. How often are you ordering out? How often are you eating out? These things are the bigger picture things, and
Yeah.
which impact more. Like, you're wasting 80% of your energy on that 5% thing, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so you're saying utensils then not very high on the list of priorities, or you should not obsess over it in your kitchen. Just
Right.
know basic rules and all of that, etc. Then what is an essential? Is oil an essential? There is so much talk about ghee chahiye ki olive oil, or what is the heating point of a particular oil that should define
Yeah.
what you're cooking.
Yeah, so there are a few rules. See, oil is important, no doubt, because see, like cereals, pulses, oil is the other and salt, and then oil is the most commonly used ingredient in our daily cooking, right? But I would still say that the quantity matters more than which oil again,
Correct.
right? So there's a study which has shown that Indians are consuming 20 to 25 kgs per capita oil in a year, as compared to 2 to 3 kgs a century ago. So we have gone 10x that quantity. Also because century ago they had to grind their own oil and make it, but now oil
We
consumption
live
is
in
at
the world of abundance.
abundance and leading to other scarcities like health. But but yeah, consuming so much oil, that is the bigger problem. To first you reduce the quantity of oil, and then you focus on which oil you're using.
I saw this somewhere that the best way to reduce oil in your house is actually to put it in a spray bottle.
Yeah.
Because people don't get an idea कि कितना तेल जा रहा है. Best to spray, just sort of use it and that's
yeah.
that.
So you might have seen these videos which explain that someone is cooking and they're putting oil with a teaspoon. Okay. And then they're putting oil with a tablespoon. You've added 120 calories. Someone is pouring a few tablespoons. You've added 500 calories. Someone is pouring directly from the bottle. Ho gaya 1000 calorie plus in the day. So if the fat is the most calorie dense food item, so you have to, especially if you're health conscious, you have to measure out the quantity of fat. And cooks are notorious. I've had friends who say that, hey, I was cooking myself. Now I have a cook. I'm buying 3x the oil quantity in my house because they pour like this. Then, because I coach patients to improve their health, I tell them that this one thing you have to follow if you have a cook, measure out or weigh out the oil and say that this much only you're getting for the day. So whether you
Yeah.
use it in one dish or 5 dishes, you have to use a spoon and use from this. Because if you give them the whole bottle, you can do any diet, any workout, you're going to be in the
It's all
red.
going to fall flat.
It's all going to fall flat. So quantity, very important. And the other most important thing, which is why eating outside or ordering from outside becomes so dangerous, is the reusing oil after being deep fried. So most restaurants, what they do, many smaller restaurants, they even buy used oil from 5-star hotels. There's a whole chain of recycling
Oh,
edible
damn.
oil. So if the regular oil costs 100 a liter, they may get it at 30 a liter. And tell me which small restaurant doesn't want to save on their costing, right? So they would do that. So at home, if you've used something to deep fry, use very little oil and use the smallest कढ़ाई. ऐसे नहीं कि जो ad में दिखाते हैं पूरे कढ़ाई में इतना तक
Or
तेल
just
या
air fry it.
so there's, of
Yeah,
course, we will
yeah,
come
yeah.
to that option. So not just fill the whole kadai, because then there are two things. Either you are disposing that oil in a bad way, which is again not sustainable for the environment, or you are continuously reusing that oil until that oil is over. So both are wrong. So take very little in a kadai and
But
just...
your everyday sabzis, for tadka, I get it that ghee is the best, right? It has a high heating point also.
Yeah,
Ghee is
so-
great for tadkas, but for everyday cooking, you're doing Indian vegetables, etc. What oil do you recommend?
So again, it is good to consume a different variety of oil. So you can keep 3 to 4 oils in rotation. One is, of course, ghee you can use for dals and all that. You can use olive oil in your pastas and salads and all that. So that's another.
Extra virgin?
Extra virgin is good. Any South Indian cooking, you can keep a coconut oil or any other neutral oil if someone doesn't want coconut oil. And for like North Indian sabzis, you can use mustard oil. So keep some 2 to 3 oils in rotation, and again, quantity. So if you know how many people are in the house, and roughly 1 teaspoon per person is how much would be good. Because, more than that. So always measure oil. Don't use it just with that bottle with the nozzle. So spray again is excellent. A lot of some popular brands are also launching sprays now because they have realized that most of the health conscious people are going towards
Yeah.
cooking sprays. So these are all cold pressed oils loaded in sprays.
What is the difference between a cold pressed oil and a regular oil?
So a regular oil goes through a kind of a chemical extraction. A cold pressed oil is just a physical extraction. So say I have 1 kilo of peanuts in a cold press technique, and these are just random numbers. I would not know the exact number percentage. So out of 1 kg peanut, if in a cold press technique, say you're getting 400 ml oil, okay, but you still have more oil left in that, but I've only physically pressed it. So they do a more like a chemical processing in the refined oils category where you extract maximum oil.
Got it.
And then there are other things like, because that color is also very dark or strong color, they use a bleach to make it look more neutral in color. I don't know why, because I think that fairness obsession has gone with oils also. So bleaching. Then there's hexane is used to extract. It's a solvent, so that extracts most of the oil out. Now, hexane smells bad, so there has to be a deodorizing process. Then that oil is dark in color, so they use a bleaching process. to make it like all that has to be shelf stable. So there are so many things that are happening. But ultimately, in the end product, there is not going to be hexane, there's not going to be a bleach or any such thing. Obviously, the end product is clean of all these things. It's all double filtered, triple filtered, and all that. And there. So there are more antioxidants and all in the cold pressed
Got it.
oils, and no other chemicals have gone into extracting more oil. So why it's pricier? Because the same raw material is going to give you less quantity of oil versus more quantity in the, that's logical, right? Why
Got
would
it.
they charge you the same? So again, it is, even if it is cold pressed or it is refined, you just can't eat more of cold pressed because it's healthy for me. And don't depend on oil for your micronutrients again. That's what I would say. Like, focus on the fruits and the vegetables
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you need to get it from that.
One thing that bugs me to the core, which is about people switching their salts these days. There is
Yeah.
an entire group of people who are saying, I only take pink salt. I have got Himalayan salt at home. And they just do not understand what iodine deficiency is in our genomic makeup and why do we need it. Can you please clarify on that?
Yeah, so see, deficiencies are coming, one, due to not eating the right foods, eating ultra processed foods. And there is one, the most highly foolish deficiency, which is an iodine deficiency, by replacing the salt by a salt which is 10 times more expensive. And coming up with a lot of thyroid, hypothyroid, and other thyroid problems, which our government smartly tried to eliminate by making sure, okay, salt is the one thing that's going into every house, in every dish, in every savory dish. So let's add iodine to that. And people are trying to reverse that by, choosing all these random salts.
Explain that. Why was iodine first introduced in India's salt by the government and why it is so important and why you should not pair it with or replace it with pink salt and rock salt and God knows what all.
So yeah, goiter, which is like a huge swelling in the thyroid because the person is hypothyroid and the gland is expanding in the hope of, producing more thyroxine hormone. And iodine is available in some vegetables and stuff, and some, I think, also undersea, all that seaweeds and all those things. Yeah, so when iodine sources are few, so and the government wanted to make sure that nobody suffers this goiter because it's the easiest thing to fix by ensuring that the required amount of iodine is going through to everybody in every home and in a cheaper way. There's no added cost to salt because it's an iodized salt. I think it was just incorporated in that. And somehow this whole thing of Himalayan pink salt having more minerals and more micronutrients and all that. Now, how much salt are we adding to our food? Like 5 grams is 1 teaspoon. And for a whole family, sometimes we add 1 teaspoon in a sabji if like 4 or 5 people are eating. So someone is getting 1/5 of a teaspoon. And in 1/5 of a teaspoon, what micronutrients are you getting? And if you're depending on salts for your micronutrients, then I have a problem. So that comes from vegetables, fruits, and all that. So don't look at replacing something like this and saying, it's the same thing that people talk about jaggery over sugar. Jaggery has iron. I think someone needs to eat like 1 kilo of jaggery to get some, reasonable amount of iron in their body. I'm just saying 1 kg, but I'm telling you it's a huge quantity,
Yeah.
which will create other problems. So are we trying to fix our micronutrient problem by creating a macronutrient problem by eating too much sugar? So I think we looking constantly for these quick fixes by saying, and feel good. Like, instead of white salt, I'm using pink salt. Instead of sugar, I'm using this fancy raw cane, organic sugar, whatever. But ultimately, you have to fix the bigger things in your diet, which is a slow process, which is a gradual process, and nothing is going to change overnight. So making these kind of quick fixes is not leading us anywhere. And people need to understand that this is all just selling you very
But there
expensive
is low
things.
sodium salt also. What's that?
So there's a reason for that. So people with high blood pressure, because sodium is directly linked to increase in blood pressure, so that salt has more potassium, which helps keep the blood pressure under check. So even if someone reduces the overall quantity of salt slightly, that will help with their blood pressure, or even reducing their weight by a certain kg will permanently
Weight
bring
though
down.
is the
So-
genesis
so-
of almost every disease in the country.
So at
yeah.
least that has some scientific reasoning behind it, but switching to some really expensive salt because you're going to get some fancy micronutrients is just nonsense.
What are your thoughts on monk fruit?
It's a good sugar replacement. Now, also, if someone is just having 2 cups of tea a day or coffee and adding one teaspoon of sugar, I wouldn't even bother to get them to replace their sugar. Also, our sugar comes from a lot of hidden sources.
Yeah.
So things like ketchup has sugar, or if
Hmm.
you're eating in a restaurant, that gravy has sugar, or some, you know, a lot of ultra processed foods that salt, sugar, and fat is that deadly addictive combination that a lot of brands try to crack so that you can't stop at one. That's what keeps you in that fixation of trying.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sugar, the salt, fat, and sugar
Hmm.
is the holy trinity of getting you hooked onto a food. So if you're eating little
Hmm.
sugar in a day and you know that you're only having 2 cups of tea and you're
Hmm.
otherwise your diet you're not having sugar, you can very well have the regular sugar. It's not a poison. It's not going to kill anybody.
Hmm.
But if someone is having say having more beverages and more this thing and they want to cut down the added sugar content in their day, it's a
Hmm.
good replacement.
But another thing I think which really has an impact on people's gut is the spices that are used. I was just giving you an example. The same food cooked at home versus the same ingredients and same food being cooked outside has a very different impact on your gut. Why is that? Is it the quality of spices? Is it some people? I'll give you my example. I grew up loving like spicy food. In fact, I would boast about the fact that, listen, I can take so much spicy food, my momo, chutneys, and all of that. I would just love it. I have gone into a point now where I can't take a pinch of spice. It just irritates my gut. I just know immediately that not gonna feel comfortable. What is it about spices?
Yeah.
And are we also then overdoing some of them? A lot of people I see are waking up to shots of soft ka pani, methi ka pani, iska pani, uska pani,
Yeah.
and I hear inflammation then. So how do you balance it out? What are
Yeah.
spices doing to our body?
So I think the biggest difference between outside food and home food is that one is the spices used, right? They use almost every spice they are using in every food. Like there is a coriander, there is a cumin, like dhania, jeera, garam masala, red chili powder, haldi, amchur, everything in everything. There is no like restraint in the use of spices because there's also that mentality. Also, many South Indian dishes also and North Indian that the spicier and the this is the flavor. So they are not concerned about the flavor of the actual ingredients like the base vegetables or the paneer or the chicken. I don't chicken may not have much flavor, but I'm talking about the veggies at least. But adding all this, they feel it makes it more palatable. That is one kind of a misconception that people are living with. And secondly, the oil used, again, the oil that is reused and reused and reused many times until it gets over in the restaurant kitchens, so nobody's monitoring that. So that's the biggest difference between our home and home. Still, no matter how much spicy you're cooking, there's still some restraint in what you're using. People have some combinations ki isme I use only jeera and hing, or in that I will use only, if I'm using green chili I will not use red chili. It's not like carpet bombing with everything in your pantry. So I think all those spices have certain extracts and irritants. Ultimately, if you're using everything together, you might have heard this that the spices are actually those parts of the plant which are protecting the plant from being eaten. So they are the plant's defense systems. So that's why they have these strong flavors and their own essential oils, which actually the plant was hoping that humans will not eat them. But humans have gone like one step ahead and they have adapted to everything. So that's why when you eat a multiple combination of variety of spices, it is going to irritate your gut lining to some extent. And some people are just more sensitive. It's also, I think, since in my case, I have never eaten spicy food and I detest food which is like too much chili and all because I feel I can't taste what I'm eating after that. I was just drinking so much water.
You eat more spice after that.
No. So I
Sure.
I dislike spices to an extent. I don't mean I love cinnamon, I love cardamom, I love dhania, jeera in separate, but use it with some restraint. Don't like make it a rave party of spices by just adding everything in everything, which is I know some Instagram food creators, once their video, like it just comes up on your feed and now they're going to empty the whole masala dabba in the dish. So that's something that does irritate the gut lining. And while again, like we discussed, spices are part of the 30-a-week plant thing. But again, don't use everything in all the dishes. Be mindful about where you're using what. So restaurants don't do that. They have these already ready-made gravies in
Yeah,
which everything is already there.
Yeah.
So they can't remove anything from that. So everything is going.
Hmm.
So sometimes if you order 3-4 dishes from the restaurant, you'll see that all the gravies are the same and it's just the ek mein paneer hai, ek mein kuch aur hoga, like that, right? So I think just being careful about where you're ordering from also.
So we spoke about different things in our pantry, from diversity of food to the way of cooking to utensils to oils to spices. Let's come to the major chunk now, which is your protein. Okay. We are in a protein era.
Agree.
Everybody is obsessing over protein. All superstars and celebrities have
Launched
got
their own brands.
their own protein powders. There is a very famous YouTuber who was known to be like this person who will call out labels. He has also launched his own protein powder. Everybody seems to have their own thing. What's going on? Do we really need that much protein?
Okay, did you missed out this protein water? पानी में भी protein मिल रहा है.
ये कहाँ हो रहा है?
It's there in India.
What do you
Protein
say?
water, yeah. So it's also, I feel those of us who live in a social media bubble, and I don't know if there are any outside that bubble, is everybody in that bubble? But yes, it's also that algorithm, right? Once you have liked or engaged with a few protein videos, you're going to see protein videos around you everywhere. And we also assume that the whole world is talking about protein, but this is also like a subsection of that world which the algorithm has created for us. So one, I would not say that everybody is obsessed, but yes, there is a huge uptick in the kind of protein products that are being launched. Like, बस एक प्रोटीन राइस लॉन्च कर दें फिर वी विल ऑल बी लाइक
प्रोटीन आटा तो हो
मसल
गया है।
ब्रोस. आटा तो आ गया है,
प्रोटीन आटा तो
राइस बचा है, राइस is remaining. So I feel, you know, that meme which says that if rice had protein, we would all be like muscle bros. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that because I'm such a rice lover. But jokes apart, with this huge number of protein, you open any app, it will literally tell you what protein, like if you just type protein, you'll get some 50, 100 things with products with bars.
Now, if I go to a restaurant, I think their menu also has
कुछ
protein,
में है.
calorie,
Yeah,
this,
they have
that,
that.
all of that as well. But how much protein do we need?
Yeah. So let's discuss that. Now, that 100 grams is like a bit overgeneralized. And like I said, anything in the space of nutrition and health, you can't generalize the same thing, let alone a number, by saying everybody needs 100 grams of protein. So now, as per the National Institute of Nutrition and these kind of guidelines, it's 0.8 gram per kg. Okay. So for a 60 kg individual, that would say come to 48, I'm guessing. That's 80% of 60. So 48 grams is not huge, right? You have morning, you have some oats with yogurt, or you have an egg, 2-egg omelette, and then lunch you have like a thick dal or rajma or something with rice and some veggies and some dahi. And night you have something else. You're going to reach 48 easily. But the thing comes at that 0.8 is like a baseline level. Now, is somebody going regularly to the gym and working out? Are they having a very active lifestyle? Is their goal to build muscle? Are they an athlete? Is this person a growing teenager? Or is this woman post-pregnancy? So there are different categories. Again, so we cannot generalize that 0.8 may be sufficient for everybody. Now, if someone wants to lose weight or do this body recomposition where they're trying to reduce their body fat and increase their skeletal muscle mass, they will need more than 0.8. So, say 1 to 1.2 grams you can look at. In US, so many
But
of
that
these...
1 to 1.2 grams is very difficult to achieve with normal diet.
Yeah, so I will come to that.
I struggle with it. I'm somebody who's working out. I do strength training, all of it, right? And I am anti having powders, right? I want to have natural protein in as many forms as possible, but I get tired. Eating 4 eggs is not easy.
Yeah, no, that's true. I will come to that. So first is that. So 1 gram per kg. A lot of US-based fitness influencers, they say 1 gram per pound, which is almost like 2 grams per kg. Again, where are they coming from? They are maybe building body or muscle in a big way. And for us, if we are literally having zero point 0.5, let us say we are at the lower end of having 0.5 gram per kg. So a 60 kg person is eating only 30 grams of protein. How do you expect them to jump to 2 grams like overnight? That's literally like changing your entire lifestyle and your diet and your cultural restrictions. Some people don't eat egg, many people don't eat meat. How are you going to even fulfill that, right? So, see, for vegetarians and people, also for people who are doing things like intermittent fasting, you have literally lost one meal window to fuel yourself. So, especially women who don't have such big appetites, to eat all that protein in 2 meals. And then there are people who eat, oh mad, 1 meal a day. How on earth are you going to compensate by eating everything in 1 meal? So, which is why considering the 3 meals of the day as 3 windows to fuel yourself in the best possible way is the first baseline to follow, where you can divide that protein. And it's easier because protein is the most filling, protein and fiber are the most filling aspects of our diet. So if we are eating all the protein in one thing, you are not going to be able to even eat it. It's going to be so hard. It's not as easy as eating rice or carbs, or like garlic bread or something like that. Which
Dr. Iyer loves rice. I think that's
yes, why
that
not?
is my conclusion so
Yeah,
far.
true to my South Indian genes. Yeah.
But about protein powders,
Yeah, so
not
I'm-
everybody can digest
So I'm
it.
coming to that. So dividing your protein in the day, one, getting it from a variety of sources, which you already said you are aiming at. So if someone eats meat, then eggs, having enough Greek yogurt, having chicken, having some fish, a variety. And if they are vegetarians, then also you can consider legumes as a kind of protein source, but also understand they are a huge carb source and they are an excellent source of fiber. Now, only plant-based proteins can give you fiber. So if you thought only hitting 100 grams protein is the goal, then try hitting it along with 30 grams of fiber. That's your whole day's thing taken care of. You'll just be going after that. So making
It'll
sure...
need another one. It'll need a CFO, Chief Food Officer.
Yeah. So considering that you are getting your protein from a variety of sources, the third rule would be going with the least processed or getting it from whole foods. So that kind of rules out all the supplements which are there. But I'm not ruling them out because they fill in the gaps. They cannot be your meals. They are sometimes you're on the go. Sometimes you are lacking because you have eaten at some friend's house and they are just serving rice and potatoes. So how do you fulfill that thing? You come home and have a whey protein or you do that. And so you've got your daily requirement. And again, I would not bother about not fulfilling the requirement in one day. Like I said, our body is very forgiving. But if you know that 1 week you're on the road and you are not in control of the food you're eating, at least this way you know. And this whole thing about whey not digesting is a bit of a thing because whey isolate is just the most easy to digest thing. Literally, people have it during their workout so they can get all the amino acids as a
Doesn't sit with
refueling.
my stomach.
So then there
Just
are
can't even take half a spoon.
So plant-based sources are there. There are different.
But why is that happening? Is there something wrong with my gut?
I don't know, because even a lactose intolerant person, because this is many of these are pre-digested and some come with enzymes also to help. So you can try a version that comes with bioenzymes, so that helps to that's like a protein with an enzyme, so it helps it digest better,
Okay.
digest and absorb. So there are different varieties, and again there's isolate, there's hydrolysate, so different types of processing.
Like, explain that to me a little
So
bit.
there are different types of whey depending on how it's processed. There's whey concentrate, there's hydrolysate, and there's isolate. So these are going through different levels of processing, one from which lactose is entirely removed and one in which it's easily absorbable and digestible. I've written about this in detail in my book on the chapter on whey. Concentrate has 70 to 80% by weight in protein, and it does retain some fats, some carbs, and lactose due to lesser processing. So it's also a more economical option. The next level is isolate, which has higher protein content, almost 90% or more, and it's processed to remove fats and carbs, which is why for very less calories you can get more protein. So they will say 24 grams of protein at just 140 calories, which is like great. So this is with minimal calories, you're getting good amount of protein. and it costs more than the concentrate because of slightly more processing. And then the other version is the whey protein hydrolysate, where the whey undergoes hydrolysis, where it's breaking down the proteins. It's kind of pre-digested for easier absorption, and it is typically the most expensive thing, and it's also the one had immediately after the workout, so you're refueling and it's immediately your body is taking in all the amino acids, and it's good if you have it within 1 to 2 hour window of your strength training workout. So now there are also other things which come loaded with some enzymes, so it also helps digest fast.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this whole thing about whey not getting digested and sitting in the body for a long time is like not the right scientific thing, because it does. It's like it is a part of the milk industry where after you've removed the cheese and the thing, it's the residue and it is going to get digested and absorbed. So it's also a whey has gone through a lot of myths and things
But
where
some people say that sattu is like better. I have enough and more Instagram videos
Yeah.
and reels that come to me which say that okay, sattu
Yeah.
has so much
Sattu
protein.
is a great food. Please eat, but don't eat it as protein.
Really?
Well, of course, because you need a huge amount of sattu to have. See, when literally people can get protein from rice also, but for that you will have to eat 6,000 calories worth of rice. That will spike insulin resistance. That will lead to type 2 diabetes, will cause weight gain. Everything that is can go wrong will go wrong. So everything has protein, but how much quantity can you eat that? So does it even fit into your daily caloric intake? So sattu has fiber, it has other micronutrients, it's good, but please don't see it as a protein source by itself. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from protein. And I want to get to the other big thing that you've mentioned in your book and that really got my attention, which was some ways in which people are beginning to choose lifestyles. I want to talk about intermittent fasting. Okay. It's something that's very close to me because I've been on an IF for, I think, 3 years now. It's a way of life for me. I don't think I crave food anymore after, say, a particular hour. And it just makes me feel easier, lighter. All of my pregnancy weight, I think I lost through IF. It just changed my life on how easy and light I was. And I think I sleep better because of IF. But now there are studies, and it's been brought to my attention that IF perhaps does not work as much for women as it does for men. Is that true?
Yeah. So just touching upon the sleep better, that's more than IF, that's got to do with how earlier than your bedtime did you have your meal. So
Better
typically if you have it
digestion.
3 to 4 hours, it is the best for sleep. So in India, typically people have such a late dinner, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then within half an hour of dinner, they go to sleep. So if such a person actually just shifts their dinner time to slightly earlier, like to at least by 2 hours, and then tries to sleep, that's going to have a remarkable effect on their sleep and their overall health. Now back to intermittent fasting. Again, different people are reacting to it in different ways, and women more so. It's said that it's affecting their hormones, and it's causing a lot of headaches. It's causing cravings, mood swings, these kind of negative effects. I would see it in a practical sense. I would see it as losing a window to fuel yourself. So women who are already, having like smaller appetites, and if you tell them that now you can eat only twice a day, so how much are they going to manage to eat in one meal twice? So that can lead to right from protein deficiency to micronutrient deficiency, calcium deficiency, a lot of iron deficiency, because you have brought down a whole. It's like a tablet which is taken for 3 doses. Now you're saying you have only two. So obviously there is going to be some shortfall there, right? So if they are consciously eating everything, like if they have planned out that, hey, I have to eat 1500 calories in a day, I have to eat 80 grams of protein, and I'm dividing this between my meals, it has to be a very conscious way to do it. I
But
think.
can I say this? I think this is a classic example of why one health is not for all.
Yeah.
We are two women sitting on this table, one who loves IF, and it didn't suit you, right?
Yeah. So I was
So
telling you that
different people have different reactions.
it led to severe headaches for me, and it of course it helped me a lot in the initial days. It's also like a shock to the system where you're doing something different, but it was not sustainable. And I did realize that uh, that weight loss could have also just been because I was eating so much lesser.
Yes.
It's not.
Yeah.
So think of intermittent fasting as just another way of calorie restriction. You are just eating a reduced calorie diet at the end of the day. But if some person is doing this intermittent fasting and also eating 2-3 snacks between those meals, and you are actually overshooting your calorie limit, that intermittent fasting is not going to lead to any weight loss or health benefits. So I would say a softer way of intermittent fasting for women is to make sure that you at least keep a 5-hour gap between meals.
Ah.
So what happens is your insulin after the meal, it goes up. It's tackling all your sugars from your meal, and then your sugars come down, your insulin comes down, and it has time to stay down for 5 hours. So at this way, the graph you're eating, and then in between again after 1 hour, I said, now I want some dessert. Then again one spike. Then after that, now it's tea time. Then again one spike. Then Abhi, I'm going to go out and have some, golgappa. Then again one spike. So literally, it's the insulin spikes that are constantly going up is going to cause insulin resistance. Then the body tries to store fat and all that. So even if you're even if you're giving 5-hour break between meals, so breakfast, then 5 hours, then lunch, then 5 hours, then dinner, and no snacking, that is the best form of thing.
I think this is lovely you mentioned that, because I'm the opposite of that. I'm somebody who eats small meals and I need it like regularly. I'm also someone who feels more hungry and in the need for food whenever I'm more active. So for me, say mornings up till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening is very active. So I see myself eat most during that period. And after that, if I take it easy and I'm just sipping a glass of warm water, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I think that has just sort of worked in my system so much better. But you're right,
Yeah.
it depends on your food habits and your
Yeah.
own body.
And your activity levels. Like you say, if somebody is a early morning person waking up at 4:30, and you tell them that now your first meal can only be at 11 o'clock,
Doesn't
that's
work.
like waking up and going 7 hours without food,
Yeah.
when your circadian rhythm and everything, the digestion, your stomach acids, everything is peak when you wake up after a few hours, right? Like even the cortisol levels in the morning are going up. So you
Yeah.
want to feed yourself. So it all depends on when somebody is waking up, when are they going to the gym, when are they active, what kind of person they are. So that's why, again, telling everybody that, hey, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, this is your window, that's not going to work.
So please stop following celebrities on their diets.
Yeah, this
Any
what I
celebrity
eat, this
is
what I
just
eat in a day, use it as entertainment, not information. I would say that.
entertainment.
Yeah.
That brings me to, what do you eat in a day, Nandita? I'm really interested to understand. I'm expecting a lot of rice.
So I'm not sticking to the same diet forever, because depending on what I'm doing in the gym, my needs, my current goals. So I'm turning 50 next year. So I have certain goals on reducing body fat and some body recomposition. And I'm also strength training and lifting heavy. So I need to now focus on my protein. So I make sure that even if I'm not calculating all the calories that I'm eating, I'm at least counting my macros. So it's so hard to OD the carbs, and it's so hard to fulfill your protein. So that is something I feel like, I need to measure. And that also keeps me in track. I don't want to, unless something is exceptionally good, I don't want to eat out, And I read something or I heard something somewhere, and it really resonated. You have to become a food snob, because you want to feed yourself the best food.
Yeah.
Don't go for some junk just for that thing, because it's going to give you some temporary joy. But was it really worth it? So coming back to what I eat, I try to have a high protein breakfast. So it's either eggs, or it's Greek yogurt and oats, or sometimes I just go to the gym and I come back and I want to refuel myself immediately. So I make myself a whey protein shake with some skim. I also add some skimmed milk to that. And there's whey protein, and I add some berries. So there's some fiber also, because otherwise there's no fiber in that. So it depends on how my schedule is. Sometimes I have prepped something and already kept it before I go out, then I know I can eat that food. And if I'm not going to the gym, I can make myself eggs or something. And like I'll add one slice of like a bread with more fiber or something like that. And lunch, because see, the best way to keep something sustainable is to not deviate too much from what your actual diet
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
So even if it is rice and sambar and curry,
Hmm.
so I will make sure I measure out the rice,
Hmm.
whatever is correct for my day.
Hmm.
And for adding the protein, I will either add like tofu or soya chunks or something else, or eggs if I've not had eggs in the morning. So
Hmm.
I'm adding protein to my existing meal and fitting it in that. So
Hmm.
I'm not like looking at creating something totally new. Or
Hmm.
I have like 4 5 go-to recipes, like where I
Hmm.
make these patties with all the different, like tofu, there's mushroom, there's
Hmm.
broccoli, there's also like sweet potato. So it's like it's got the fat, it's got the fiber,
Hmm.
it's got veggies, it's got protein, everything is there in that. So
Hmm.
I have keep it frozen, so when I need it, I am making this for myself.
Hmm.
And dinner is usually again something that I've prepped and kept partly, like even if it's pasta, I'll add like a low fat paneer in the sauce or something. So if you are a vegetarian, you have to consciously include protein in your meals. It's not going to just come like that.
Yeah.
And you have to incorporate it in your existing meals,
Hmm.
because that's the only way you will eat it easily.
Hmm.
Because low fat paneer by itself is nowhere close to the regular malai paneer we are used to. It is a bit rubbery, it's dry.
Hmm.
तो उसको कैसे मतलब palatable बनाएं? And there are ways where you either make it into a burji, or you make it into a sauce, or you grind it like a hummus. Like you have to be creative in that's why all these recipes on Insta, they get so much this thing, because how to make a protein palatable,
Yeah.
especially if you are not a meat
Yeah.
eater.
Hmm. Hmm.
And even meat eaters, I'm not saying that they're going to get all their protein, because in India, meat eaters, for them, the meat is not the center of the meal. They're not having like a grilled chicken or a steak and then only few veggies on the
Hmm.
side.
Hmm. Hmm.
For us, it's like some curry or something on the side with
Hmm.
some carbs and other
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and plus some days for religious reasons, people don't eat, it gets excluded, right? So, even I'm saying even a meat eater has to be conscious about
Yeah.
whether they are getting, because it's very easy to get skewed on the carbs and fat side of things.
Hmm.
So that's why
Hmm.
you have to be more conscious.
Yeah, yeah. We've spoken about a lot of essentials in the pantry. I also want to talk about essentials in life. I read in your book that AQI also has an impact on our bodies and beyond lungs. What exactly is that?
So, of course, the most direct impact is on the respiratory system,
Hmm.
but there's this interesting stat which I have quoted in my book,
Hmm.
which says a 2019 study suggested that the residents of North India might be losing 7 to 10 years of life expectancy
Hmm.
due to consistent exposure to hazardous air quality. And of course, pregnancy and children, like babies being born with low birth weight,
Hmm.
premature births, developmental issues, of course, mental health.
Hmm.
Also, because people are scared to go out and they're more, closeted in their homes
Yeah.
and not going out and doing their usual routines. And then also cardiovascular health, which is, of course, tied up to respiratory system.
Hmm.
So, literally on every system of the body, including mental health and including unborn children.
Hmm.
So, extremely concerning, and it is kind of disheartening that it's not being given the importance on a war footing as it needs to be given.
Yeah. You mentioned North India, but pollution has gone beyond that, right? We're looking at
Yeah.
all major metros in
Yeah.
India have very high particulate matter.
Yeah.
Everybody feeling the same thing.
So I was in Mumbai just before I came here, and where I was living, literally every building around us is under construction, and also this whole redevelopment thing in Bombay, because almost every building has been there for 50 years, 60 years now, and they're rebuilding the whole thing. So I literally feel like the whole city is under redevelopment, and AQI is off the charts. It used to be, being a seaside city,
Yeah.
one would expect it to be much better, but these are all man-made things like construction, factories within the city limits, and of course vehicular pollution, so much adding up to it. And yeah, I don't know, like, how do we stop going out of the house and protecting ourselves? So also those things like a lot of these plant websites are now taking this as a chance and saying, hey, this will reduce the AQ. They're using that as their marketing thing,
Yeah,
but you would literally have to grow an Amazon forest in your house to have a plant
Actually,
impact on AQI.
Yeah, so plants do help, but I think there is a study now which talks about how many plants and which all plants you need per square foot to
Yeah.
have that impact. This
Yeah.
one little snake plant sitting in the corner doesn't really cut it,
That's
right?
not going to.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
the
not gonna.
AQI will kill the plant before the plant does anything.
Yeah, that's
So,
also possible.
uh,
But it's not just AQI. The presence of plastic in our food is something that has bothered me for a while. Now there are more and more studies that talk about microplastic in our food, in breast milk, in placentas, in every part of your body. Uh, One, I want to understand, how do I avoid it?
yeah.
Practically everything I pick up, from the grains in my house to spices, everything comes in a plastic bag. How do I ensure that it's not
Yeah.
infiltrating?
So plastic packs, dry goods, as long as you are emptying it out in a proper, even if you're emptying it out in a plastic container, it's like a good quality,
BPA free.
BPA free, and it's not the one that the ones that are also sold on the streets. They don't have any such certifications. So go with a proper plastic container, because also, like I said, being more inclusive, and the elderly people can't pick up huge jars full of
Yeah,
glass
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So storage in plastic, as long as it's not kept in the heat and it's inside your kitchen cupboard and all that, that is fine.
It leaks only with temperature, with higher
Yeah,
temperature?
so when the main plastics to avoid is the many restaurants give you a black plastic container with a lid, right? And they also write it as microwave
Yeah.
safe at the bottom.
Yeah.
But that black plastic is made using all the recycled plastic from all the waste, and that is something that should be totally avoided. So two things: one, if you're getting that food from a restaurant, garam in that container, immediately remove it to another glass bowl or another thing, jar or whatever. And then reheat. If you want to reheat later, reheat in the glass. And secondly, if this is a restaurant it's not a cloud kitchen, you know that restaurant and they're in your vicinity, speak to them about not using black plastic. The least they can do is use the white plastic containers. They're at least more food safe. And even the ones that are giving in cardboard or paper containers, there is a plastic lining on that, and that's not even recyclable. That's straight discarded waste, which you cannot
Goes to the dump.
recycle. So that's further thing. You're just polluting your groundwater and everything, because these are not going to get biodegradable at all in like decades. So the better option is to get it in the white plastic thing, and that is recyclable.
Better order is not to order.
That is good for health overall anyway.
Just not order food.
Yeah. So yeah, the other option, if you remember that in the early days, our kitchens were full of stainless steel dabbas, like neatly arranged in the height-wise order, and chasing all that Instagram aesthetic. Or earlier there was this whole Tupperware craze, so everybody changed those steel into Tupperware. Now there's the glass craze with these fancy glass jars and lids. So the idea is not to chase the perfect aesthetic, but as far as possible, you can go back to stainless steel. And I do understand that it's tough to see what's inside. So you can just put a nice label on the stainless steel and make it look aesthetic as well. But definitely reheating in plastic containers and the restaurant plastic containers, I would say, is the top risk, given how much people are ordering out these days.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've come towards the end of this, and I do want you to think about and leave people a little inspired. A lot of people in India today want to be healthier, want to be food snobs, ensure that they have the right amount of nutrition, etc., but just don't know how. If you had to help out a person like that, give me 3 mantras to follow in life.
Okay, I'll give you 4.
Okay.
So I would say that look at the 4 main pillars, which is food, movement, stress, and sleep. Okay. The other things are there, like hydration and this and that. But if you focus on these 4 things predominantly, the rest, everything will fall into place. So let's not focus, like all our energies on the tiny things which are not going to have a big impact. So food and movement are like 2 main things. And then sleep and stress. It's like a passive thing which we all take for granted that, hey, I'm a light sleeper, I don't sleep much. Or someone says, I'm just stressed out all the time. We kind of normalized not getting enough sleep and being stressed out all the time. So taking active steps to improve your sleep and give it the importance, like it's nothing like praiseworthy or gloat-worthy to say that I just sleep for 5 hours and I work for, 17 hours a day, or I work for 18 hours a day and I don't sleep at all. Stress management, definitely bring down screen time. I think it's exploding and that's leading to a lot of mental health
Especially with
issues.
older people.
Older people, kids.
Yeah.
Kids
Yeah.
are big. So, yeah, so stress, active management of stress and sleep, please give it the due importance. If you're sleeping right and if you're sleeping good quality and good number of hours of sleep, then that's literally 25% of your health taken care of. And why would you not want to tick off that box? So I would leave with these 4 things.
No, those are good mantras to go by, but I also want to understand how important is it to start your day right? I keep hearing about this, or even when we were growing up, our mum would say, "Subah उठ के पूजा करो तो दिन भर अच्छा जाएगा." A lot of that has percolated down to if you eat sugary things in the morning, the whole day you're gonna crave sugar. If you start with the coffee, the whole day you're gonna crave caffeine. And now there are different people. They start with chia seeds. They have different shots of different spices that have been put in. कोई हल्दी पानी पी रहा है, कोई cumin पानी पी रहा है, कोई अजवाइन पानी पी रहा है. तो क्या कैसे शुरू करना चाहिए
या
अपना
उसमें
दिन?
राइस भी डाल दो, बिरयानी बन जाएगा फिर. Yeah, so this is a bit crazy, and also that thing about craving what you eat in the morning the whole day, there's no basis to that. And also this whole morning routine is another very popular video format, so everybody's trying to do something different. But I would say simple thing is to hydrate in the morning, because you've just slept for 8 hours or whatever and you've not had any water. So it's a good thing to start. Also get the bowel movement running, and basically your body engine is getting started for the day. Water, and again, there's no special benefit to drinking lemon water unless you're fond of getting more cavities in your teeth. And lemon acid dissolves enamel, so
Yeah.
that's one of the number one reasons why people who drink a lot of lemon water, they keep getting cavities because of enamel. Anyway,
Oh
point
man,
being, plain
I know
water.
so many people who do turmeric with lemon, with some aloe vera and God
Yeah.
knows what all.
So plain water, my vote goes to plain water. The rest is up to what inclination people have to add other things, which is turmeric and this and that. We're anyway having it in food during the day, so I don't see any special benefit in adding all this. So starting the day with water, and then after a while, if coffee floats your boat, then yeah, go ahead and have coffee. I have nothing against that whole. People say that coffee will further increase your cortisol and all. There's like,
Or when your
first
stomach
of
is
all,
empty, it'll lead to acidity
see,
and
if it
stuff.
again individual, if somebody is feeling not so comfortable, then I think they will stop it themselves. Nobody's going to torture themselves to drink something that's troubling them. So tea or coffee or whatever floats your boat. So I would not give so much importance to this. It's what you again eat throughout the day and what you eat throughout the months that has a bigger impact than how you just have what you have in the morning.
A lot of information online, and India is at this breaking point, right, where everybody cares. Or let's talk about urban India. Okay, India one today cares about the food they eat,
Yeah.
the calories they intake, the hydration levels that they keep, the
Yeah.
sleep quality that they're getting, steps they're walking, all of it. But there is just so much of misinformation online that you never know what is right, what is wrong. One day chia seeds are good, the other day they're not. One day intermittent fasting is great, the other day they're not. Apparently, they're very bad for women. One day you'll get to know that running is great, it sort of gives you longevity. The other day you get to know that it's taking away lives. So one doesn't know where to draw the line. Do you have a way in which you scan online news to say, okay, I know what to believe, what not to believe?
See, I would say that, at the risk of canceling my own self, because I also give advice online, or if not advice, at least information, which I say is science backed. And, I'm not just speaking things out of my own daily experience. But it's very hard to provide any nuance or detail in 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And given that biology, nutrition, health, these are all highly individualized things. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you will not work for the third person. So any platform where advice is doled out like a general thing, right? See, even if you're saying giving a palak paneer recipe, you're giving the recipe, and every 100 people can cook it and they will get good results. But one health advice which is just given like that, 1,000 people following it, it may not work for 500 people. I'm giving a very random statistic here, but health advice is something which can never be generalized. And the other thing is the qualification or the accountability of the person who is giving it. Now, if someone who has no medical degree, no medical license, I'm not saying that these are the only people who have the knowledge. In today's times, a lot of people gain knowledge through other sources and they're genuinely interested and they they keep educating themselves on a certain subject and they become experts. Respect and hats off to them. But when they are giving, any such person is constantly giving advice online with zero background and even a science degree, forget a biology, forget a medical degree. If say they're an arts graduate and they're telling someone how to change their health or improve their health, one, what is the accountability? Tomorrow, anybody taking their advice, it can affect them adversely. Do they have
But
any?
what is the guarantee even with a doctor? Na? Even the
There-
doctors are not trained. So my question is simple. Doctors in India are not trained to give you guidance on nutrition. Experts, so-called, do not get the proper, certification. So who do you trust?
So you don't trust anybody online. So hear me out. And see, one is because things like shorts and reels are not the place where you get information to fix your health. You have to read books, you have to understand these kind of subjects are understood at a deeper level. And a family doctor or your regular physician who knows all the other aspects of your health, will give you the advice which is specific to you, considering all these things. Because
Yeah, GP
a
basically.
blanket health advice will not work. And as much as people think that the internet has replaced the doctor, it's not true. Because, like I was telling you earlier, that Chat GPT literally told someone about a extremely poisonous plant. It said it's perfectly edible. Go ahead and make a salad with it. Luckily, she cross-checked. This was not in India. In US, she cross-checked with a gardener friend who said this is literally the poison hemlock, and if she had taken that, death is certain. There's no antidote.
Oh.
So, what is the see? If a doctor did that, giving a poison as a medicine, at least there will be some trial. There will be some.
Probably lose their license.
They will lose their license, or there's going to be some
Yeah.
repercussion to that. I'm not saying the life will come back, but in this case, who is to blame? Are you going to call Sam Altman and say, hey, your Chat GPT killed somebody? So, still, I think in the matters of health, you can trust a human and a human with a medical degree more than a random person on the internet. So, apples to apples, if you compare these two people, don't you think you can trust the doctor a little more than a person who has nothing to lose?
I also have a problem with all those people online who claim to give advice because it's worked for them. There are so many people who will say, I lost 20 kgs in 8 months and I'll tell you how to do the same. Like, it's not, and these are mothers, these are people who are dealing with postpartum weight gain. These are people who are dealing with, complications, sort of people who have autoimmune, all of those things put together, right? And then I feel like, dude, these are very vulnerable class of people that you're getting after.
Yeah.
They're going to cling on to whatever hope you give them. And this is so tough to sort of, cut through.
So that's it. Anyone with an internet connection is an expert these days. Anyone who can make a video will post a video. But does that mean you have to trust everyone who's posting a video? So whatever comes on WhatsApp, whatever comes. So at least what people can do is, in case of advice which is really going to affect their everyday life, they can in fact go back to ChatGPT and ask it whether this is evidence-based medicine, filter this out and do the fact checking and tell me what is the right thing. And
actually, what I like to do with ChatGPT is try and understand the alternative view. Because all of us are in such echo chambers.
Yeah.
We constantly have confirmation bias.
Yeah.
That if I want the other point of view, I don't get it.
yeah,
But if you specifically ask for it, it throws up amazing results.
absolutely. Because otherwise it will always tell you, yes, you are right. Can I tell you more? So to avoid that, you can do that. Or also put these things, literally now I tell the elders in my family, they are more on WhatsApp. They are not looking at Instagram so much. So the WhatsApp on top of that, now that it's giving that Meta AI chatbot, you can literally ask that to verify things, because such crazy, silly things are being told about health that, have this, have, raw sugar instead of this if you're a diabetic. Like silly things which Even Meta AI will tell you that, boss, this is nonsense. That is sugar. It will spike your blood sugar. And if you are a diabetic, that's equally, it's as good as sugar for you. So they can see, because us telling them, they may not trust it. Okay, so if it's come on WhatsApp, you ask that fact checking button on WhatsApp if this is true.
That's a
and
good
then
idea.
you
Yeah.
see if you want to believe that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So many questions answered today. I'm feeling like I have a lot of clarity now on what will go in my kitchen and the rest of it. Thank you so much, Nandita. But
Thank
we
you.
can't let you go without doing a very now famous doctor versus internet. With which, what we do is we throw a couple of Instagram reels at you, and we understand from you, is it okay, not okay, just garbage? You can just say whatever you want. Nandita is very diplomatically
Should
polite.
I be scared?
Very, very polite. So, but I'm going to nudge you to sort of really say what's on your
Okay,
mind on
let's
this
see.
one. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see our first video.
चिया सीड से ज्यादा अच्छे हम भारतीयों के लिए सब्जा सीड्स हैं और मैं उसका कारण बताता हूँ। उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण है कि चिया सीड्स की तासीर गर्म होती है, यानी कि उससे इन्फ्लेमेशन यानी कि जलन पैदा होती है। और ये सीड्स इंडियन भी नहीं है, ये सीड्स मैक्सिको से लाए गए हैं। भारत में रहते हैं तो भारत के वातावरण में जो चीजें पैदा होती हैं वो हमारे लिए ज्यादा फायदेमंद होगी या बाहर की। सब्जा सीड्स, जिन्हें तुलसी के सीड्स भी कहते हैं, इसके बारे में आयुर्वेद तक में लिखा हुआ है। इसकी तासीर ठंडी होती है, इसमें भी बाकी सारे वही गुण है जो चिया सीड्स में होते हैं।
ये ऐसा क्यों हो गया है कि भारत में जो मिलता है अब सब अच्छा है, भारत के नाम पर हम कुछ भी बेचेंगे?
और भारत के बाहर से जो आया सब बकवास। मतलब आई होप ये आलू और चिलीज वगैरह नहीं खाते, क्योंकि वो भी बाहर से ही आया था।
So this is absolutely rubbish.
Rubbish. I mean, go ahead and have sabja seeds, but there's nothing that garam and thanda and that is from foreign and that is Indian. Total nonsense.
Okay, let's see another one.
Yeah.
अगर आप चिया सीड्स ले रहे हो तो उसके फायदे के बारे में तो आपको पता ही होगा, बट नुकसान तो कोई बताता नहीं है। आज मैं आपको बताता हूँ। हार्ट पेशेंट्स को हम चिया सीड्स नहीं दे सकते क्योंकि वो ब्लड थिनर लेते हैं। अब आप पूछो क्यों? चिया सीड्स में आता है ओमेगा 3 फैटी एसिड।
Okay, I need to read
जो
up on
blood
this. I
thinner
don't
के
know
लिए
if
काम
this.
करता है।
Okay.
He's saying it
इसलिए
very
हम heart
sincerely,
patients
so I'm
नहीं दे सकते।
getting a doubt
See,
if.
that's your sign for a good doctor. If the doctor says मुझे नहीं पता है, मुझे पता करना है, please stick yourself with the doctor, which is why love it, love it.
I know we feel cool, virtuous, or healthy when we eat a plate or a bowl full of fruits, but that's not how it works. If you want the fruit to work for you, these are the 3 rules that you must follow. Eat them solo, do not mix them up. Eat them as the first meal or the post-workout meal or as a mid-meal. Number 3, chew them well and don't juice them. Eat them in season, eat them whole, eat with your hands and not with the
I
fork.
thought only 3 rules.
What do you think?
Eat your fruit, period. Yeah, I'm just saying eat your fruit, full stop. Don't follow all these rules of not combining. No merit in that. Eat it at the first meal, no merit. Yeah, chew them, eat them as it is, don't juice them. I agree. Juicing, you're kind of reducing the fiber and you will end up eating way more fruit than you would eat it as a whole fruit. Like a glass of orange juice could have 4 oranges, but if you eat an orange, you'll just eat 1 or 2 max. So yeah,
Have you
50-50.
Have you just fact checked Rujuta?
Yes, why not? Everybody deserves to be fact checked.
Okay, let's see this one.
जिम जाने वाला कभी भी बुढ़ा नहीं होता है। क्यों नहीं होता है? क्योंकि जवानी में टपक जाता है। अभी शेफाली तो हमेशा 42 साल की रहेंगी ना। तो इस वजह से क्यों जाना? अगर आपको मज़ा आता है वहाँ जाने में तो जाओ ना। घूमने जाने में मज़ा आता है कि मुझे अपनी सहेलियों से बात करनी है, चिड़ियों की चहचहाहट सुननी है, माटी की खुशबू सूंघनी है, तो जाओ ना। लेकिन आप अगर कह रहे हो कि मैं सेहत अच्छी करने के लिए जा रही हूँ, बिल्कुल भी नहीं होगी, कभी भी नहीं होगी। धरती के 100 चक्कर भी लगा लोगे ना, 1 ग्राम वजन कम नहीं होगा। आप बेड पे लेटे लेटे सोफे पे बैठे बैठे मनपसंद खाना खाते रहो, सास बहू देखते रहो, बिग बॉस देखते रहो, वजन तो कम होगा, अगले ही दिन कम होगा।
What is he talking about?
You tell me.
Yeah,
He's got
so
a
he's-
massive
he's-
fan following.
So he's right on one thing. You don't go to the gym to lose weight. You
Yeah.
go to the gym to build muscle to be healthy.
Yes.
The rest was all like BS.
My best in this is घर पे बैठे रहो, बिग बॉस देखते रहो, सास बहू देखते रहो,
तो
सब
कैसे
ठीक हो
वजन
जाएगा।
कम हो जाएगा? देखते टीवी देख के I don't know what is his funda.
Take this morning detox drink for acne-free and glowing skin.
I'm
Add
anti-detox.
1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 1 teaspoon fenugreek seeds, and 1 teaspoon fennel seeds to 1 glass hot water. Soak for 3 to 6 hours, strain it, and drink this on empty stomach.
I have
हाँ
a
जी।
better idea. उसमें ना राइस और कुछ फ्रोजन पीस भी डाल दो, उसका पुलाव बच जाएगा, उसको लंच में खा लेना. ठीक है?
What do you mean you're anti-detox?
Yeah, because you don't drink things to or eat things to detox yourself. Your liver and your kidney are the ones who are doing the detox for your body. So by eating saunf and fennel and jeera, you're not doing any detox, and especially not going to cause any glowing skin or anything. It doesn't work that way.
All right, doesn't work at all. Let's see the next one.
Fact or crap? Breakfast is the most important meal. Crap. Are you kidding me? Do you think our ancestors crawled out of our cave and said, "What's for breakfast?" There wasn't any breakfast. We had to find breakfast. Breakfast is the most harmful meal of the day.
Yeah, again, these extremes don't work. It's like for some people who are used to intermittent fasting and they're eating slightly later, yeah, that is their breakfast. That's their first meal. And also, breakfast is also a way to refuel yourself. So if somebody is going to the gym at 6 in the morning, absolutely they should be eating within that 1 hour window. So saying silly things like breakfast is harmful or that is dangerous, these are just clickbaity things. I would not pay them any attention.
Another detox drink.
डिटॉक्स नहीं होता है, बॉडी डाइजेशन होता है. एक बहुत ही प्यारा तरीका बता रहा हूँ बेटा, इससे लिवर डिटॉक्स भी हो जाएगा. क्या करना है? थोड़ी सी अदरक और आधा चम्मच जीरा, इसको सुबह उठ के 10 मिनट तक बॉईल करना है. बॉईल करने के बाद इसको पानी में छान लेना, आधा नींबू निचोड़ देना, लगातार 20 दिन पीना है. 20 दिन के बाद खुद देखना है तो शरीर की सारी गंदगी साफ हो जाएगी, लीवर भी डिटॉक्स हो जाएगा और हाँ, डाइजेशन मच बेटर हो जाएगा.
Can't you see my expression? I'm pained.
But you know, people follow this. People want quick fixes. This is what people see and follow all the time.
सब चीजें सबके लिए नहीं बनाई है भगवान ने. अल्लाह ने हर चीज हर किसी के लिए थोड़ी बनाई है. ये खा लूं वो खा लूं, क्या मुझे खाओगे क्या? गुस्सा करके कहते थे. तो फिर वो लोग चुप हो जाते थे. उनकी आदत समझ में आ गई थी लोगों को कि ये डांटते बहुत हैं, लेकिन ये अच्छे डॉक्टर भी हैं. भीड़ भी बहुत लगी रहती थी उनके पास. अब देखिए, हमारे मुल्क में हम वेजिटेरियंस हैं और वेजिटेरियंस के पास सबसे ज्यादा ऑप्शन होते हैं खाना खाने के. क्यों होते? कितनी वेजिटेबल्स हैं, सब्जियां लाइन से हैं. इन सब्जियों का चयन भी आपको अपने हिसाब से करना है. हर सब्जी हर किसी के लिए अच्छी नहीं होती है भाई. इस श्रृंखला में बहुत से लोगों को स्टोन्स होते हैं, तो पथरी में हमेशा गोभी नहीं खाना है. बंद गोभी, फूल गोभी, पालक, टमाटर, 3 चीजों का परहेज करें. टमाटर अगर आप खा रहे हैं तो टमाटर खूब पका के खा सकते हैं, कच्चा टमाटर नहीं खाना.
See, yeah, in a way, I'm not going to generalize this advice, but yeah, certain vegetables do have a high oxalic acid content, like spinach and stuff. And if somebody's prone to stones, kidney stones and all, they should avoid it or have it well cooked and not have too much at one time. So again, saying every vegetable is not for everybody. Like, if you have a specific ailment, then avoid that.
Otherwise, no.
Yeah. I was going to say he's a very secular doctor. You're saying Bhagwan and Allah and everything together.
पापा क्या कर रहे हो? वो सुबह सुबह गर्म पानी में हनी लेमन लेने से फैट लॉस होता है. अरे इससे फैट लॉस नहीं होता यार. क्या बात कर रहा है? हनी और लेमन एंटीऑक्सीडेंट्स में रिच होते हैं और सुबह खाली पेट पीने से उनकी एब्जॉर्प्शन बेटर होती है, जिससे स्किन, हार्ट, आइज इन सब की हेल्थ अच्छी रहती है. तो फैट लॉस नहीं होगा? नहीं जी, स्टडीज में क्लियरली प्रूव हुआ है कि ये आपकी सेहत के लिए अच्छे हैं, लेकिन फैट लॉस से इनका कोई लिंक नहीं है. पूरा इंटरनेट गलत बोल रहा है. लोग कुछ भी बोले, आपको सिर्फ एक्सपर्ट्स की सुननी चाहिए.
ये एक्सपर्ट भी गलत ही बोल रहा है, इससे कुछ नहीं होता है. ड्रिंक जस्ट प्लेन वाटर.
ये एक्सपर्ट भी गलत है. Okay, well.
I should say expert because I don't know what is his expertise.
Let's burst the bubble of your so-called healthy breakfast menu. Number 5, paratha with butter. High in refined carb and fat. Heavy, low in protein, so eat occasionally. Number 4, poha. Light and easy to digest, but low in protein again. Add peanuts or sprouts for the balance. Number 3, upma. Balance carbs and fats. Add veggies or nuts for extra fiber and satiety. Number 2, eggs. Complete protein. Keeps you full. Pair with toast or veggies for a balanced meal. Number 1, moong dal chilla. High in protein plus fiber. Light on digestion. Best choice for energy, weight control and gut health.
Yes, I would say 1 and 2. Egg as 1, moong dal chilla as 2, and rest everything as 5.
Rest everything is 5.
Yeah, because poha, upma, everything falls under the same bracket. Paratha, it's all just carbs. nothing
yeah, but
else.
poha is also just carbs, right?
It is carbs
for
and-
generations we've had it for
And
breakfast.
what he said, add sprouts to upma. Sprouts are negligible in protein again. So this whole thing that sprouts, I ate sprouts for breakfast, it's nothing. It's good fiber, that's all.
क्या प्रोटीन पाउडर लें? एक लाइन में ही जवाब दूं तो कोई जरूरत नहीं है। प्रोटीन पाउडर लेने की तभी सोचना जब उस
मेरा
लेवल का
cortisol
वर्कआउट कर
बढ़
रहे
रहा
हैं, वरना सिर्फ मन में तसल्ली रहेगी कि प्रोटीन ले रहे हैं, लगेगा नहीं। बेसिकली अगर आपका बॉडी बिल्डिंग का गोल नहीं है तो प्रोटीन पाउडर की जरूरत नहीं।
ये आपका कॉर्टिसोल जो बढ़ा है आपको पहले शॉट में ही समझ में आ जाता है कि
Because
बकवास
I
है।
know if I'm not wrong, he's some engineer or something. So why is he even first of all giving health advice? I would not bother to watch this video.
That's a good cheat code. Okay, let's not torture you with this one. Let's move to the other one.
The biggest question in this time restricted feeding method is whether we can skip breakfast. So it takes 1 hour after you wake up for your night hormones to say bye-bye and your day hormones to be woken up. During that 1 hour, nothing to eat or drink except for water. So following that, you will start to feel hunger slowly when your daytime hormones are rising up. So listen to your body and eat or drink only when you are hungry and extend the fast as much as possible. Hunger is like a battle with your
I agree. Listen to your body. If you're hungry within 1 hour of waking up, you should eat within 1 hour of waking up. There's
Yeah.
no problem with that.
But there's an entire school of thought which says that you should regiment your body. You should have the fixed time so your body knows exactly
Yes.
what you will get when.
Yeah.
And then there is the other which says that, okay, eat only when you're hungry.
That's
Which
true.
one
You
is
can't.
true?
I mean, you have to go with your day, with your own. Like, if you're really hungry and you're getting a migraine on a certain day and it's still not time to eat, are you going to wait until you really suffer to eat? I mean, it's just that these are not these hard and fast rules. And also, he's saying when you wake up. So, what about someone who wakes up at 5 versus someone who's waking up at 9 a.m., So, these things, these rules, you can't generalize them like this.
You have to listen to your body. You're
Yeah.
saying.
So,
both
partly-
are correct and
Partly
not.
agree.
Partly agree. Dr. Pal, are you listening?
एडवाइस करते हैं कोई गोली कैप्सूल हर्बल
आ गया
सप्लीमेंट प्रोटीन शेक कोई भी प्रोडक्ट किसी भी तरीके का बिल्कुल भी लेना नहीं चाहिए
जी
ओके हम भी किसी को एडवाइस करते नहीं है दूसरा वेट लॉस के लिए और अच्छी सेहत के लिए अभी ध्यान से सुनिए एक्सरसाइज के नाम पे उंगली भी हिलाने की जरूरत नहीं है आंखों की पलकें भी हिलाने की जरूरत नहीं है बेड पे लेटे लेटे सोफे पे बैठे बैठे बिग बॉस देखते रहो सास बहू देखते रहो खाना खाते रहो सेहत उसी से बनेगी
What is he exactly advocating here? I'm not understanding.
So I think the part where he says that,
Context is lost.
yeah, I think the part where he says that gym जाने से weight loss नहीं होगा is correct, right? We all know that we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, weight loss happens in the kitchen. It does
Yeah.
not happen in the gym. That we
Yeah.
know about. But then about late stuff, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
He's another
get this.
extreme.
It's too extreme.
Hi Saloni, what are some healthy Indian breakfast options?
So let's start with very very famous poha. Poha is great source of carbs and अगर हम इसमें अच्छे से बैलेंस करके वेजिटेबल्स डालेंगे पनीर डाल दिया पीनट्स डाल दिए it will become a complete meal. So enjoy poha. एक चीज जरूर मेक श्योर करना कि ये वाले पैकेज्ड पोहाज ना खाकर हम रेगुलर पोहा जो मैंने यहाँ कार्ट में डाला है घर पे
Well, it's a no-brainer. Homemade versus packaged is any day thing. And yeah, if she's adding paneer and all that to it, then it does make it
But
better.
I think you have to be clear about not sprinkling paneer, but adding
Yeah.
a good portion,
good
right?
portion
Yeah,
of paneer should be, and also it should be low-fat paneer because otherwise you're adding a hell of a lot of calories and fat to that, and that's malai paneer is more of a source of fat than protein, literally. So you're getting so much fat and calories. So you have to balance it out with the right kind of paneer also.
Oh, we are not done. There's one more of this guy. Wait.
वेट लॉस
They are
करने के
gems.
लिए कुछ चीजें क्या आपको करनी चाहिए
जी
या क्या नहीं करनी चाहिए करने के लिए तो मैंने आपको बता दिया रोटी सब्जी दाल चावल वेट से किसी को भी परेशानी नहीं होती है परेशानी होती है जो और जैसे एसिडिटी हो गई सर में दर्द हो गया उससे बहुत परेशानी होती है क्या क्या नहीं करना चाहिए पहली बात तो सबसे पहले आपको ये जो काजू बादाम अखरोट पिस्ता चिया सीड सनफ्लावर सीड फ्लैक्स सीड ये सब बंद कर देने चाहिए बिल्कुल जीरो कर देने चाहिए दूसरी चीज पानी के साथ कोई खिलवाड़ किसी भी तरीके का बिल्कुल भी नहीं करना चाहिए पानी मतलब सादा साधारण नॉर्मल रेगुलर पानी जो ऊपर वाले ने आपको दिया है धनिया का पानी जीरे का पानी रात भर डुबोई हुई ककड़ी का इन्फ्यूज्ड वाटर वो कौन सा एक कैंजन एल्कली पानी खिलवाड़ बिल्कुल भी नहीं इसी की वजह से जीवन में परेशानियां
talking
हैं
about drinking regular water. At least there's one thing we agree on. And I don't know what's the logic behind, saying no to all the nuts and seeds. Of course, they are very calorie dense and they have to be had in measured portions. But they're also a very good source of good fats. So I don't know what's the logic behind saying no to everything.
See, that's the thing that I want to prove with all these series of videos. Watching a reel does not give you context into the conversation and definitely not context into your health. So that has to be stopped. You have to watch a long podcast like this one.
Or read books.
Or read books like that one.
Yes.
to get a sense of it. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Nandita Iyer, for being here, for coming all the way to this very nice, polluted air of the national capital to give us this podcast. And like I keep saying, thank you for being the voice of reason, the very few left online.
Thank you. I'm flattered. Thank you.